Welcome to Folk It, episode 22. We are continuing our discussion from last week, episode 21, which was awesome, if I do say so myself. And we are going to probably have a third one, maybe even a fourth one that fall in this series because it's really fascinating to me, and I'm hoping other people get a little something out of it as well. All right. So today, what are we doing today? Well, last week we introduced this whole idea, and we said what we should do is go on the attack. We should either counter the message from Gen AI, or try to promote this other ideas that we have about why it's bad. Um, So that's what we're talking about now. We are going to organize, and this is all hypothetical. We're not really doing this. We're just thinking out loud. It's an exercise, hopefully to just make you think a little bit about what you see online and whether it's real and where it's coming from. But we're having a strategy session. In this discussion today, we are going to go through strategies for us and issues that might arise from running our own influence campaign against the generative AI tools. Hold on tight. This is a good one. All right. So here's what we know. It takes money to run a campaign. Now, it can take a little bit of money, and it's higher risk to run that campaign on a little money. You're not necessarily going to get the results you want for cheap, but you can run them for cheap. As well as the other end of the spectrum being we have money. Somebody is funding this operation because they want, an outcome. So I want to talk about a little bit less about the low income situation. It's harder to do, less likely to work. I want to talk today about a strategy for, let's suppose there was some famous investor, maybe like someone who's famous for shorting bubbles like Michael Burry, who's come out and said, "Hey, I am going to bet against the AI bubble. I believe I can make this AI bubble bet, shorting it. I can make a ton of money like I did in the housing bubble." I like that play, Michael Burry. So let's pretend like Michael Burry is funding our little operation here. And we're going to just hypothetically strategize what we can do to counter this generative AI stuff online. All right, so that's good. And I've got a three-legged stool. I've got three-pronged attack. There are three things we're going to discuss. Assuming we've got this Michael Burry funding, we're not going to go crazy with that money. We're going to be good stewards of his funding for us, and we're going to go on a three-leg stool, three-pronged attack. And I'm going to go through each one of those things for our strategy in just a second. I'm just going to keep saying three. It's repetition. I want everybody to get me if I only do two. Like, put it in the comments. Yeah, you only did two. You kept saying three, but you only did two. Repetition. Okay. So before we run this campaign strategizing session, one of the first things we want to do is think about who are we trying to convince, right? Who is our audience? What do we want? Who do we want to listen, and what do we want the outcome to be? And I'm going to go with, since we're just hypothetical here, we're just talking. Let's go with our audience are consumers. And in particular, they're consumers of generative AI tools. They're online, so they're going to see online messaging. They'll Even if people don't see online messaging online, they hear it from other people, their friends who are. But these people, let's assume, are in a company where AI is being pushed. It's a tool that's available in a Fortune 500 type of setting, or they have it at home. Maybe both. Maybe this is I'm at home. I've got it. I use it at work. situation as well. They're definitely familiar with generative AI. They're familiar with getting online and doing their own kind of researching with Google. And they are um, potentially somebody who would subscribe down the road. Of course, the sun comes out. It's hot. So I'm gonna have to keep it short. Keep it short. But let's go with this, right? This is our audience. We want regular folks, let's call them. We want to get to regular folks. We want them to see the negatives. Now, there's already a lot of what I would call negative push on Gen AI from these folks, right? So in the last podcast, I talked about this. So us regular folk, we've already got a fair amount of sentiment. They're still in our target audience. We're still going to try to reinforce their negative feelings about AI. But there's another part of our audience, another segment that seems to be really driving the Gen AI hype. And that is like us regular folk, we don't really like it that much. But those people who are the bosses, the owners, the CEOs, the corporate, the C suites, the high end, high dollar funders, the venture capitalists, the high end sources of funding that go into the banking industry, who are promoting this technology top down. The push for a generative AI has been top down. It's really odd because with a lot of technology, the adoption starts at the bottom. Us regular folk loved the internet. We loved AOL. We loved getting email. We loved the movie with Tom Hanks. It was as obvious as could be that the internet, the World Wide Web, was going to be everywhere. It was as obvious as could be because us regular folk at the bottom, we loved it. It helped us. We could communicate across the world instantaneously. This was a game changing technology. Gen AI, not many of us like it. There's a small amount of us that are really, really, really into it. I think there's a psychology to it, but it is not universally loved. First of all, it is just not. So us regular folk aren't the only target here. We need to create a seed of doubt. Like we can reinforce the negative feelings of our regular folk audience who are getting it at work, getting it, like on their phone, tools that they're using every once in a while. We want to hit those corporate executive, banking executive, funders, the high end people, the ownership society, the capitalists, the oligarchs. We want those people to feel a seed of doubt. We want them to twitch a little. When they see our message coming, we want them to twitch like, oh man, I don't have an answer for that one. I have no answer for that one. That one's bad. That's bad. That's how we want them to feel. We want to create a seed of doubt, plant it. Right. So Michael Burry, this is the part that's going to pop the bubble. We have this common folk at the bottom kind of like mumbling all the time, like, oh gosh, this is horrible. This AI thing, we don't want it. We're not going to pay for it. And then the seed of doubt in the ownership society, the oligarchs, so that they think maybe I put too much money in this. Maybe we're not going to get AGI, Twitch. Maybe all of those people like Sam Altman and the CEOs of the AI companies have been either not honest with me, liars, or they don't know what they're talking about because they don't understand the tech. Maybe they don't know. Twitch. That's where we're going. So we have two audiences. We have regular folk, and then we have the capitalist oligarch ownership class driving all of industry. And we want to plant that seed in them. They're online too, though. Don't think they're not online. They're online. They get it from all angles, just like us regular folk at the bottom. All right. So we've identified our target audience and kind of the intended messaging. We're just strategizing here. Keep in mind, hypothetical, hypothetical. Michael Burry, if you're listening, hypothetical. This is step one. We're whiteboarding right now. We're drawing some stuff out on the whiteboard. All right. So we've got two kind of audience targets that we're thinking about and slightly different messaging we're going to each, right? Great. So now we know what we want to do. Now, a lot of people will say, well, you got to be able to measure how effective your campaign is. I don't care how effective my campaign is. The bad guys that do the other side of the thing that I'm fighting against, they didn't care how to measure their effectiveness. They knew they could run an online campaign, so they ran it. And when it worked, they ran it harder in that direction. And when it didn't work, they ran away from it and stopped doing it. They're agile, they're responsive, they move at the speed of the internet, which is in these, it's not even a 24-hour cycle. You got to be on an hourly cycle on the internet to be able to handle like real-time events and make a pivot. So I don't really care about measuring how effective my campaign is. That's a sunken cost. That's like chasing the wild goose. We are not on a wild goose chase. I don't care about that wild goose. Run. I care about putting this out and being responsive. So what we do want to do is have our ear to the ground, make quick decisions, pivot when we can. And part of that is just going to be some of us on the team. Let's say we have a team of people now, right? We're working like 3, 4, 5 deep. 3, 4, 5 of us are working behind the scenes, strategizing this thing. We could probably get away with 1 or 2, but let's just say we got 3 or 4. Burry's got deep pockets. And we're going to be online listening. Our job at the higher level is to track how well things are working, just get a feeling for it. And if a story breaks, we want to push a button that says, hey, here's our new message. Hey, we're pivoting off of this old one. We're now moving to this new one. Here's our bullet points. Hit these bullet points. So like an orchestra, right? Like we're the conductor playing the orchestra. So this, let's call it a team of people at the top that are the orchestra. No, the conductor. We're the conductors. I don't have a good analogy for this one. Should have planned it out better. We're this management team at the top. We've got people and we're playing the other orchestras, telling them what to do. All right. So recap. Here's what I've got on my whiteboard. We've got a 3-pronged attack that I haven't told you about yet. We've got 2 different audience segments. One is the oligarchical CEO uber rich class that is trying to tell us regular folks what to do with GenAI. And then there's us regular folks who are already somewhat responsive to the idea that this thing is bad. We don't like it. 2 segments, 2 targets, clearly delineated, and we have an idea what we want to tell them. We want to plant a seed of doubt into the business strategy at the oligarch level, and we want to reinforce the negative stuff, connotation, sentiment, feelings in the regular folks like us. All right, great. So now we know what we want to do. We have a sort of a management strategy. We've got a small team who are going to conduct, and I'm going to talk about what to conduct next. But the small team is not worried about measuring how things effective are. We can feel it because our small team will be tapped in online listening, looking for opportunities to quickly pivot our messaging, quickly pivoting our strategy when we see or suspect things are not working as well. Because this whole game is a tug of war. And if we build this cool, awesome influence campaign that's going to work against generative AI tools, the people who are heavily funded, the heavily funded social media AI companies are going to absolutely start pulling the other direction, right? So we're the little guy in this scenario. We're 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 going to be going up against Goliath with their deep, deep pockets. So what we will probably happen is we're going to tug of war. So as we pull one direction, they pull back. We have to pivot our strategy so that it's a game. All right. So that's how we're thinking about it. That's what we're in. We're in a long-term battle, tug of war. Now, long-term, I mean, hopefully we can pop this thing in like 3 months, but maybe it goes a year, maybe it goes 2 years. Hard to know, right? Hard to know. But we're going to respond. I mean, with the tug of war might be in the same day. Like they might counteract us in 6 hours and we counteract back in another 6 hours. We don't want to get caught flat footed. We don't want to have our messaging take like 6 weeks to develop. We don't want a hierarchy in our team, our management team, where, you've got to get 3 or 4 levels of approval to get your message out, because the internet, you got to strike while the iron's hot. A story will break and then 3 hours later, the story is gone. So if you lose that battle to that story, it's just opportunity cost lost. All right, you have to be ready to go. So we are building a responsive, agile team, management team, tied into the internet, comfortable with messaging, that is going to be ready to pivot on a 3 to 6 hour note. Um, we realize it's a tug of war. We realize we will get, countered, and that's okay. So in fact, we want to be countered. We want the deep pocket team to fall for our trap, because right now what's happening, like there's no real organized, effective Michael Burry funded team like I'm strategizing here to put out generative AI is a bunch of crap stories. It's just ad hoc, right? There's a lot of people that feel that way, us regular folk, but we're not organized. We're not building a campaign or a strategy to push this, consistent messaging to achieve our end goal. We are instead just, responding naturally the way people respond naturally. The other side has an organized campaign with people who are experienced in online marketing and media promoting their side of the story to get people to buy ChatGPT, use ChatGPT, Claude, all these companies, etc., buy GPUs. So in this battle, right, they've already put out a lot of messages. And if you try to counter their message, if you try to say, no, that's not true, you lose. The story that they've originally come up with, I was talking to my one of my neighbors about this recently this morning. One of them is, well, it does, Gen AI data centers, they do more than just generative AI. That's one of the stories. It's not just Gen AI, it's everything, the social media, everything on your phone is all through these data centers. Okay, disingenuous, but that's their message that they try to push. And then another one was, hey, adoption rate of ChatGPT has been like 100 million in a month compared to all these other companies that didn't get as many, like Netflix, as fast. So there's no stopping it. So that's another message they have. There's no stopping it. We can't just counter that, right? Because that story they tell, let's call it a lie, travels around the world before I get to put my shoes on. Me being the truth here. You can't counter effectively a story that's already out there, because if you go second, you lose. The story that gets first is the winner most of the time. Now, this is a broad brush, right? Like, we don't give up on countering those stories to make them more complex, to tell a more nuanced version that is harder to understand. We don't give up on that, but we don't directly counter it. Like, we file it away in our memory bank, like, all right, here's a story that they put out that sort of worked for them. We're not going to directly counter it right now, but we're going to have a long memory, and we're going to come back to that one and make a point that's our own at a different time where it's winnable. Okay. So we're still strategizing, right? Like we've done who our target audience is, we've done how much funding we think we're going to have, we've done what our overall strategy is going to look like for this campaign. We want it to go short and blow the bubble up, in a month or two, but we should be prepared for a longer game. 1, 2 years, maybe. I mean, in theory, it could go longer than that, but I'm just saying, no way this thing lasts longer than 2 years. But we have to be prepared. So, as part of that strategy, we say, all right, we're going to be responsive. We're going to listen to the internet. We're going to be ready to change our messaging. We're not going to do like a marketing campaign where it takes weeks to come up with a new slogan or a new pitch. We're going to have people who are ready to go. And we're not going to worry about being wrong so much. We're just going to worry about being responsive and fast because the internet is constantly changing. That's our tempo. That's what we're going for here. Internet speed, tempo, response, and adaptive. Like what we think is working, we go. We don't directly counter. We come up with our own original messaging and stories that we think will resonate. And then the ones that do, we keep pushing. All right. So that's good, right? Like we've just laid out like a whole, business plan practically. We need three to five people. We need some funding to pull off what we're going to pull off. We want to have we have a strategy, internal strategy, a vision. Our vision is we are going to work this way, and we're going to have a team that's able to respond and pivot. We're not going to do longer term messaging campaigns where we have to build these complex messaging strategies. We're going to go fast. We have a timeline. We know we hope our timeline is 1 month, might be 2 years. All right. Boom. This is good. This is good stuff. So all right, let's take a break because that's feeling good, right? I mean, let's be real. This strategy that we just wrote down, I mean, we could have charged people like, a couple of grand for this. Just so they understand it. Could have given a seminar or something. I'm kidding, by the way. I'm just totally kidding. Not giving seminars, giving podcasts, focus style. All right. So here's where we are. We've got a whiteboard with a lot of stuff on it now. It's starting to get messy. Like every once in a while, I just like to take a step back, look at the big picture. Got a messy whiteboard. So let's erase some of it. Let's kind of clean it up a little bit, come up with a bigger picture. We believe this messaging, online and strategy campaigns work. We don't care about immediate measuring effectiveness. We're going to run it and we're going to believe it's going to work. And we're going to do it the way we just talked about. That's our guiding vision. We're going to target these two audiences with our content. And we need to take the next step down, right? Like we cleaned up all this mess that we just kind of put up there. We need to take a little bit lower level deep dive. So we just drew the big high picture, right? The big picture is we're running this campaign and we're running it this way on these people. So three-legged stool time. The three things I'm about to say, they broadly apply, but I'm going to go into a little detail for each one. So the first thing that we're going to do in our three-legged stool, three-prong attack, drumbeat. Drumbeat. And I want you to hear the drumbeat. This drumbeat is consistent. It's always there. It's always in the background. There's a drumbeat. Bum 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 bum. That's our message. Generative AI takes up too much electricity. They can't power it. It uses clean drinking water. They're putting up methane powered generators to power data centers to do this that are polluting the environment. They're moving data centers to poorer neighborhoods. There's bias in the models that all of the bad things about generative AI, it always hallucinates. It always lies. You can't trust it. It's bad at search. It's bad at coding. It just looks real. There's people with having AI psychotic breaks from chatbots. All of these bad things. Drumbeat, 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 drumbeat. You just keep hammering at it, and there's a constant, but low level. There's a low level drumbeat in the background that's already there. So you do this every day, every hour, everywhere. That's one drumbeat. And you can see this in things like the vaccine hesitancy movements, the Maha stuff. The drumbeat has been there for a long time. The last 5 years, like no matter where you are online, you will see this vaccine hesitancy drumbeat. It's always there. It's not in your face. The part of the drumbeat strategy leg is, it's low level, it's steady. You can always get to it on every story where there's a chance you interject your message. So our messages are going to be counter Gen AI. Every time a story comes out, we're going to hit that drum. We're going to hit that drum. We're going to hit that drum. And everywhere. So that means TikTok, Facebook, Threads, X, Reddit, Discord, Twitch, everywhere. Everywhere where our target audience is going to be. Wall Street Journal stories. Every time a Wall Street Journal story hits, every time a New York Times story hits, and it says AI, drumbeat, drumbeat, drumbeat. On every platform. Everyone that we think, is popular enough to merit our attention. Okay, so that's strategy prong one. Let's go to two. I'm going to call this one megaphones. All right. So one is drumbeat, low level, consistent messaging noise on every platform that we want to be on. Two is a megaphone. And a megaphone, imagine it. It reaches a much wider audience. When one person yells through the megaphone, boom, your voice goes out to a lot of people. A lot of people hear you. This would include targeting online influencers, journalists, local reporters, think tanks, podcast hosts, like celebrities, podcasts that have an audience anyway, sports stars, anybody with a big audience that can broadcast your message. They're potentially somebody that we want to convince. We want to influence the influencers. This is another way of saying this, the same thing. We want the people who have the microphone we want to influence them. We want our influence campaign to hit those people. And this can be done multiple ways, right? We can pay them. In some cases, people on Substack just like to get paid. Just pay them enough money. They'll say what you want them to say. Podcast hosts, probably the same way, right? I'm sure there's very popular podcast hosts who are at the very top of the charts who are just getting paid to put out certain messages. Or it can be more authentic. It can be like we take them out to lunch. Yeah, let's take somebody out to lunch. We can sit in their comments every day for months at a time using that, promote stuff higher up works. So if we're responsive in the comments on their posts online, we can also start to influence them that way. And we want to hit it all, right? We want to influence these influencers. We want megaphones. So we will identify megaphones as part of strategy number two, and then go after them with different, strategies, depending on our funding, to see what we can do. All right. And then number three, search. We want to own search. And there's a great story that I want to tell. Um, Brian Penny, who has been doing some research. He's online. He was doing some research on these Nudify apps. So the generative AI Nudify apps, like they're everywhere. One of the other horrible things about generative AI that we could kind of get bubble up to the top, right? We could push the story. But what Brian did was he saw that they were being hosted on state government websites. And he tracked it back to, this company that was getting the contracts that had a layer on top of AWS, it sounds like to me. So they were providing a service layer to state and local governments so that they could host their own websites on AWS more easily. But there was a security flaw somewhere because these Nudify apps were showing up everywhere, like across multiple states. And Brian was able to track them down, start recording where they were, contact the local reporters, and then get the local reporters to write stories about what was happening on the state website. And then he repeated it so much. He saw this observation about like when he was posting on threads, um, within a couple of days, your message would show up on a Google search. So if you Google searched it, you would see, oh, here's this thread post from Brian about Nudify apps on Tennessee's, website. And similarly, when the local reporters wrote a story, he would start sharing the story and it would show up, in different places. I think he got NPR even to do a story about it. The stories showed up in the training data for ChatGPT, apparently, because after several weeks of consistently pushing out his messages across multiple platforms and multiple places, and I mean like that he was doing the drumbeat, and he had a story that was, I guess, scraped by one of the ChatGPT tools, added to the training data. Now, when you go ask ChatGPT, you find out, boom, here's the answers about the Nudify app that were on all these state sites. And it was all coming back to Brian and his kind of investigative work on this that he got put into a local story and then shared repeatedly online on different social media places that were getting indexed by Google. So he owned Google search for AI child Nudify apps, and he owned ChatGPT. If you went to research any of this, you found out this story, which was that this company had some kind of security flaw that was allowing generative AI Nudify apps to be hosted on state tax dollar sites. Pretty good. He owned the search. And this is like a search engine optimization type of situation where, one person was able to do it. That's what kind of fascinating, right? Like this game happens all the time. You can pay a SEO company to do this for you. But he got it in Google search and in ChatGPT. I think he even got it in Claude. So that's what we're going to do. Leg 3 is own the search. We want our content to appear on common searches about generative AI problems. If somebody goes to Google search or ChatGPT asks a question, what is the water usage like for an LLM or a data center? How much electricity does ChatGPT use? We want our slant, our story, to be the search result. We want to infiltrate ChatGPT to badmouth ChatGPT. Right. Getting tricky now, huh, Michael Burry? This is where it starts to get real. All right, so let's wipe out our drawing board again, right? Recap. We have a vision. We have a target audience. We have a management strategy. We have a marketing campaign content strategy that's responsive. We know we want this three-legged, three-pronged approach where we put out consistent messaging in a drum beat, consistent, always on the beat, consistent. We're like we all of our operators, all of our accounts, everybody moves in unison. Drumbeat, 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 drumbeat. We want megaphones, boom, that can blow it up, right? Like, and when it's important, boom, we want a story. And we want to get those megaphone stories into search so that they show up when people just ask ChatGPT or Claude or whoever they're using. We want them to Google and get our megaphones. And then we own it. That this is our comm strategy. Um, all right. So I think next week we're gonna go content. I don't want to talk too much about the content. And the content will get at target audience. Like so we'll probably have slightly different content strategies depending on which of the, target audiences we're choosing. But I do want to deep dive a little bit more, right? Like this three-legged, three-pronged attack model that we've got. I want to talk about it. Just want to pull some threads here. So Michael Burry, if you're listening, there's some depth to this, right? Like we're delving into some deeper strategies now. So let's start with one, drumbeat. Now I've talked about it two different ways. So it's layered. I call it drumbeat because it captures both of these ideas. But there's two different types of drum beats. One is it's like if you imagine noise as a wave sign, a wave signal, like, hey, I'm tracking this no, here's how much noise is online, like a little timeline chart. And every once in a while, you'll see peaks, but there's always this little thing at the bottom that looks like, if you search for keywords in Twitter or X, you search for keywords like, vaccines. You might see these vaccines kind of at the bottom, they're like doodly 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 doo. Oh, every day I get slightly more, but it's all within a little baseline. And that's our baseline level of noise right there. That's our drum beat. Now, when a big story breaks, you'll see a big spike. And that big spike usually is related to some kind of real world event. But that's not drum beat. Drum beat is this baseline noise. It's always there. We want to bump our baseline noise up higher for counter generative AI stories. We want to make it so that there's always in social media platforms, especially social media, but news comments, news stories, that we want it everywhere. A feeling, a way to go. I bet somebody's going to talk about this one this time, right? Like every time I see somebody got sick and died and they're under the age of 40, for a while, you couldn't go to Facebook. There'd be 50 people that would all say it was the jab, right? Like, oh, it was the jab that killed this person because they were too young. That's a drum beat. They just kept beating that drum over and over and over again. Boom, boom, boom. It was always there. You could not escape the idea that they were trying to promote, whoever it was, that, this vaccine was going to cause death in young people. So we're going to do that. We're going to run a drumbeat campaign across, let's say we're going to look at Facebook and X to start. Maybe Reddit, next, TikTok. We're definitely going to have to hit some of the other alternative sites, like the Blue Skies or the Threads, the Instagrams. And every one of those, you need an account to post your message. So we're going to need fake accounts. Maybe troll accounts is a better term. We are going to need troll accounts. Some of them are going to be high value accounts, meaning that we are, they look good. They look real. It's harder to tell who they are behind the scenes. It looks legitimate. You're not going to get as many questions. Maybe, they've even got some followers, right? So like people that trust them. Now, we could do this ourselves and it would take a long time to mature accounts so that they develop this capability, to like fly under the radar and look good. It takes a while. The accounts get beat up a lot. People beat up on each other all the time on social media. But we can also pay for it. Like we can either buy the accounts and run them ourselves. People sell, troll accounts all the time, or we pay a troll farm, which is probably the easiest thing to do since we've got a little funding, right? We pay a troll farm running out of some other country to put our messaging in drumbeat fashion on certain places on Facebook we tell them about, and X, all the different social media we want to use. Um, we might even pay more than one troll farm. We might pay one troll farm for our drumbeat noise for the regular folks, and we might pay one that is always talking about the financial side for our, corporate oligarchists that may want to make us use it. Good options. So I would think what we're going to start with is a blended mix. Now we keep in mind we're pivoting because we're agile. Whatever works the best, we're going to double down on, and whatever isn't working great, we're going to pull back from, and we're going to do it quick. So we're going to push multiple troll farms with some seeded content. We're going to have our management team also in charge of some fake accounts. We'll try buying some. We'll try curating some ourselves. We'll want them on multiple accounts. We might even pay somebody to write a little software or find some software out there that exists already to manage multiple accounts. So it's a little easier for us. And we're going to practice. So part of this drum beat is knowing how to hit the drum on time. Like you don't want to stick out like a sore thumb. We want to practice. We want to get in there every day. And if you mess up some at the beginning, you mess up some, big deal. Like you're posting 5, 6, 7 times a day with each account, big deal. Like by tomorrow, nobody remembers you messed up. So that's what we do. We drum beat it. Boom, 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 boom. And we practice. We build a muscle memory. Within a couple of weeks, we should be good at managing the accounts that we buy, making a couple of our own, in case we need them, and talking to the troll farms about how and what to distribute, and where to distribute it. And that's good, right? Like, boom, we set up a little op tempo. We got a little drum beat noise. This is always going to be there. So now we're out. Once we are done with this, like we're out there. We've got our messaging in coordination, like a heartbeat. Boom, boom, boom. We're pumping blood, but it's not blood. We're pumping our information that we want on point out into the spaces of the world, that they're online spaces that we're targeting. Additionally, we can partner with other groups. So like we might not be the only, Michael Burry's team here, we might not be the only ones who want GenAI to burst. There are probably some other very heavily funded, critical to AI groups out there that are willing to be partner with us. So we search, right? Like we got to figure this out, put out some feelers, see who else is doing this as well. Maybe we can team up because we want that drumbeat on point, on message. When we shift, from talking about electricity to talking about child nudify apps, we want everybody shift at the same time so that we sound like we're a big voice, right? Like if you're out there and you're putting this low level noise on 10 different stories, the low level noise is divided by 10. We want to pick our level of noise that we want always to be out there and stay on topic. Right? We could have one or two, but in events that happen, we probably are going to pivot to just one and have our noise just keep hitting it. And then to regular people who don't know that this game is being played, who log into Facebook and they see it, they start to believe it. Through repetition, they will start to believe it, and they can't even help it. They're going to believe generative AI is harmful because it's all of these child notify apps everywhere. And it is, right? Like in our Michael Burry campaign, we're trying to hasten the inevitable pop of the bubble, but we're also just telling the truth about generative AI. um, all right. So that's one. All right, that's drumbeat. Megaphones. Megaphones is very interesting because there are lots of people who have big following and big voice. Um, the very first step is going to be to isolate some that we think would be sympathetic to our point of view, um, who would be, either no cost or low cost, who would spread our message willingly, and it doesn't have to be completely on point. Like drumbeat has to be on point. But this one, megaphones don't have to be on point. Megaphones can just have, if they want to talk about something that's supportive of what we're saying, okay, go ahead. Here's some funding. Here's some money. We'll buy, 100 subscriptions to your Substack or something like that. And we also can get on our people on other people's shows. So there are a lot of, I can think of a couple of big podcasts out there. Maybe these big podcasts are sympathetic to our point of view, and they just want to let us talk. We get on podcasts that have some visibility. We get news stories as well. We can talk to journalists with tips. Like we can say, hey, we know this inside information about generative AI, and we're sharing it with you because we'd like a story about it. Now, granted, we might not have any inside information right now, but we can certainly leak out, hints at stories that would help the reporters write something about it. Kind of like what Brian did on, the Notify app situation. He talked to a reporter, and it's a valid story. It's not done purposely to try to bring down generative AI, but it would have fit in the Michael Burry, team that we're putting together here. It would have fit. So they're not all going to work. That's the other thing, right? We have multiple types of influencers out there. All of our strategies, paying them, making friends with them, looking for sympathetic people that are already sympathetic and willing to do it, looking for journalists who need to write stories anyway, and we give them a legitimate story. That's a tip. But we should try. Like this is our strategy session, right? Like here's the ways we can get to you. Another way you can get to people is this longer term burn. Now remember, we're hoping for 1 to 2 months. We're planning for 2 years. We can have our troll farms amplifying people's comments in somebody's post. So let's say there's a Wall Street Journal reporter who covers AI. We know that beat. We know there's multiple of them, right? We know their beat. We know that they push AI stories. They promote them. New York Times has them. Washington Post has them. Atlantic has them. Everywhere has, all the big papers have AI beats. The tech companies as well. We know the journalists. So we use our troll accounts to sit in the comment sections of those journalists, of the ones that we think we can, move their sentiment somewhat and promote our point of view. We do it early. So as soon as they share their news story, we go in and respond to that news story in a way that's, favorable to us with like emotion filled, pithy type of comments, sometimes humorous content, other times, different emotions. First comments get a lot of traction. And to help our cause, because we don't necessarily want to rely on us being perfect commenters every time to get a lot of upvotes, we'll upvote ourselves with other trolls. So this kind of longer term view, we know if you bump the content up higher in somebody's feed, and comments are a feed, if you bump your comment up, you get a lot of likes, though it's going to start to resonate. So we do this as it's a little bit like the drumbeat, but it's purposely trying to move the sentiment of the journalists who are covering this beat. We want to move them a little bit our direction so that over time they move a little bit our direction. The stories get to be a little more in our favor. Sometimes that's all it takes is a little nudge in our favor, and public sentiment changes. And for our target audience, that's the capitalist oligarchs, we just want to plant a seed. So if we can plant a seed in an influencer that then plants a seed in a story that's read by our oligarch, we planted the seed. All right. So there you go. This is strategy session number one. We're gonna start in this next time. Ideas about content. How do we get it? Where do we post it? How often do we post it? And what are our good stories? Like, what are the good generative AI stories? Let's rack and stack, put some content ideas, figure out who do we have? Do we need more money? How do we fund this whole thing? Stay tuned. Folket is about to pop the bubble, hypothetically.